Hello everyone, I have a bit of a special video for you today. So, Welcome77, who I'm sure you all know, called out to the piston door building community, and I offered my help. So this is what I built for him. I didn't come up with this design, this concept. Doc showed me what he wanted it to look like, and I wired it all up for him. So it's a pretty sleek design, cool $sign pattern, emerald ring around it, and from the back it looks really clean as well, no pistons showing or anything. So let's take a look at the opening animation, and it's very clean. It's all in sync, the back and front, and yeah, there's no derpiness or anything, so it looks really good, really clean. And as you can see, there are some pistons showing when it's open, but it's very nice and symmetrical, and it doesn't really look bad in my opinion. So and you can always cover it up with carpet or item frames and maps or anything. So let's take a look at the closing, and it looks, well, just as good, if not better, than the opening. So also really clean, really synchronized, really cool. So I am in 1.12.2 myself, but this door will work in any 1.11 version, any 1.12 version, and also in 1.13.1, so if you're playing in any of these versions, the door should work. And I'll also leave a world download in the description, so if you want to check out the door but don't want to go through the trouble of building it yourself, then you can do that. And one last thing before I jump onto the tutorial, and I want to give a quick shout out to Sydney and Game For You, because while designing this I did take a little bit of inspiration from their 4x4. So links to their channels will be in the description, and let's crack on with the tutorial. So this is everything you need. These are building blocks for placing the redstone on, some slabs for redstone, unmovable blocks. I chose obsidian, and all of this is decoration. So this is for the walls. A couple of those need to be solid because redstone will be placed on them, and this is for the $sign, and the emerald here for the ring and the background. So, and this should all be quite self-explanatory. So that's all you need, and this is the door frame. The floor is at this level. You need to dig down 4 blocks and clear out a 5x12 area. And yeah, I think we can get started. So we're gonna start off with the layout, and we have our 4 storage pistons here, double extender on both sides. So this is the front, and this is like the front 4x4 of it. And 4 more pistons down here. I'm not gonna place in any of those blocks yet because I will be testing it while building, and I want to make sure it doesn't break everything. So I suggest you do the same if you want to test it out. Of course, you can always wait until I have my version working, and if you follow the tutorial correctly, then it should work for you as well. There we go. So that's the ring of pistons. They are in the floor, ceiling and walls. So, and then the 4x4 at the back. And more storage pistons. Another double extender, and then the last pistons. Right, so this is the layout. Should be everything, and we can get started with the wiring. So the input is right here. It's one of these 2 blocks. And it doesn't really matter how you wire it up. It can be a repeater, can be dust. Doesn't really matter as long as the signal will reach to all of those blocks. That's important. And I'm gonna do the right side first. So we're gonna start off like this, and we're gonna need a cauldron and a comparator, block, and a couple torches. And then you want to fill up the cauldron with water. Be careful with that, you don't want to spill it all over your redstone. So, and we're gonna take care of these side this ring first. So we're gonna control that with a pillar. A cauldron block, redstone block, 2 more blocks, and normal piston here. And I suggest you turn this on because that will be the closed state. And then we need another comparator, which you're gonna place on top of an observer. That is for the last pulse on that piston, but we'll get to that eventually. Oops. There we go, so that takes care of those 3 pistons. And that takes care of those middle 2 pistons, and then this here takes care of those 3 pistons. And we're gonna push this down as well in the closing, but we'll take care of that later. We'll now continue with the back side of the door. So, as you might have noticed, this here also powers that piston, and that was a little bit tricky to deal with. So we need to hard power that as well by another signal so it can retract in sync. And we're gonna do that through that repeater. And then this comparator, which will be getting a signal from this furnace, like so. And that will be getting locked by another signal, like so. So the comparator should turn off. And that takes care of that piston. Then these 2 pistons. So we're gonna just spam some observers here. And that's that. And then we can also take care of this right here, because it's very difficult to reach once you have the rest of the wiring in. There you go. And then we can start doing the rest of the 4x4. So I use powered rails here, but you can also use activator rails. It doesn't really matter too much. And then the signal goes up and then onto the wall. 2 blocks like this. So that takes care of all of that here and that as well. And then if we place in this 3-tick repeater with a lamp, then the entire closing should be done. So let's give that a little test run. Yep, and for the opening, that's also everything except the double extender. So let's place that in right now, and for the double extender we're gonna need an extra piston and observer here, which is going to power those 2 pistons when they're in the wall. and we need a toggle for that so that it only activates in the opening. And we're gonna use a bit of a zero-tick monostable for that. So we're butt powering that sticky piston and updating it with normal piston, and that creates the zero-tick monostable, which means that the observer won't activate when it's retracted back up, which is very useful. Yep. And then for the last retraction, we're gonna need another powered rail, or activator rail, doesn't really matter which one of the two. Another observer, and there you go. That should be almost the entire back done. See, only the last retraction there doesn't work yet. But that's because the front isn't working yet, so the signal that powers that last retraction comes from some circuitry here, so we can start working on that. So a few dusts right there, and then 2 torches, then an observer facing down, and bring a signal up here and to this side as well. And we're gonna place another rail here and a block there, so that takes care of all of those pistons. And then we're gonna travel the signal up like this, and up some more into a trapdoor, and that will power all of these 3 again. And then we're gonna do kind of the same as on that side here. So a block there, a lamp, an observer, and a block. And again, that should be the entire closing, but I'm not gonna test it just yet. Let's do the toggle first. That's a little bit of a tricky bit. So how I do that here is with a rail. So if this rail is right here, it's being powered, and this one is also powered, but if it's retracted, none of the rails are powered, so you don't get an output here. And that is perfect. So this is the signal that retracts it. And again, we have a similar piston observer setup here. And again, a normal piston to update it. And for the last pulse, we have this. So that should almost be it. Now we're gonna have an output on the other edge of the toggle, which is going to push down that pillar to power the ring, and it's also going to activate this toggle. And then we only have to take care of this last pulse here. So we have another toggle here, a 2-tick and a 1-tick repeater, and a 2-tick there, and a hopper. It needs to be unmovable but also detectable by an observer, so you could use a dropper, I think, but it is solid, so it does power that piston. I haven't tested if that interferes, so it might just be wise to use a hopper instead. And And one last piece of wiring here, a slab here, so that that torch doesn't power it. And that should be everything for this door. So let's give it a test. Seems to be working almost fine. Okay, so that has to be on a slab. That's important. And now that is also powered. And that seems to work as well. So that is half of the door done. And now we are going to copy it to this side. So again, we start off with this repeater into a piston with a cauldron on top. Make sure to fill that with water. And a comparator output, 2 torches, and let's do this first. So 2-tick repeater, comparator, a furnace with a single item, then another 2-tick, and another 2-tick, and the comparator should turn off. Then the pillar to power the ring. And a block, redstone block, 2 block, redstone block. And a piston right there. And then a comparator right here, again on top of an observer. And the signal travels all the way to down there. Then a repeater right there, and dust on a slab. And then a couple more slabs, repeater here, and some dust. So that's everything for the ring. Then 4 observers into those pistons, a trapdoor, and a couple more observers, and then 2 rails, and then we bring the signal up and up onto the wall and the ceiling. So there you go. And then here a 3-tick repeater, and a lamp and a block there. So then we can do the toggle again. A block there, a slab, 2-tick repeater, an observer right there. Redstone dust, an observer facing down, 2-tick repeater, a slab, and then an observer facing down to a block. And then don't forget to place this sticky piston and an observer. And then the updater piston here. And then for the last oh, that was the last pulse already. So, yep, that's the back almost done. Then for the front, again, 2 dust, 2 torches, and the signal travels a bit of in a loop. An observer facing up, and another loop here. Activator rail, then this toggle, 2 blocks, 2-tick repeater, 1-tick repeater, dust, 2-tick repeater into a hopper, and an observer facing up. Oops, a slab here, block, and 2 dust. And then a normal piston facing to this side, but not that side. This side. An observer facing up, a block, dust observer, another block, trapdoor to the side of that block, then a slab and a block here. Then we're gonna build a toggle again. So 2 rails, and I'm just extending it so that it redirects this rail. I don't think it actually matters, but you know, it'll redirect anyway once you activate it. So a 2-tick repeater and a block, and then here we go, sticky piston here, observer, updater piston, a block and a dust right there, and sticky piston, observer down here, and then 2-tick and an observer. And let's see, yes, then just that part, so trapdoor, a couple more observers, and slab here, 2-tick repeater, and a block. And that should be, let's see, I am missing something, and that's this part. There you go, a lamp and a block. And now I think the entire door is done. So let's test this first. Let's actually build it out of glass. And test it. Seems to be working fine. Yep, there we go. And let's test the back. Let's build that out of quartz, why not? Or emerald. Oh, that's not good. Alright, so it turns out I had forgotten to place unmovable blocks right here, right under that slab. And that's why it messed up. So if we test it now, it should work fine. There we go. And then you can fill in the ring as well, because there didn't appear to be any issues there. Let's fill in the rest of this as well. Yep, seems to be working fine. Yep, that's it. So that's the entire door done. So if you've made it this far, thank you. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you will enjoy this door as well. I also want to quickly thank Docam if you're listening. Thank you very much for this opportunity. I had a lot of fun talking to you and building this door. So thank you. And for anyone watching, if you want to see how this door looks in the Hermitcraft series, then I'll link the episode in the description so you can watch that as well. And yeah, I think that's everything for today. So I'll talk to you guys later.